Hello, welcome back to Rooftop Talks. In this video, I want to talk about procrastinating on life and death decisions, life or death decisions. Most people that I meet, they have one thing in common with me, and that is that we both procrastinate in some kind of way. And usually procrastination is not a big deal. But there is one thing where procrastination has the most dire consequences imaginable. Only one, and that is procrastinating on the issue of veganism. You see, most non-vegans, they're not evil. I'm sorry, vegans, I know you like to sometimes paint them in this light, but non-vegans are not evil. They're just procrastinating most of the time. They're procrastinating on living up to the goodness that is inside of them. They are procrastinating on stepping into their best selves, to becoming the best versions of themselves. I think procrastination sometimes comes from fear. People are scared not of being inadequate. They're in fact fearful and scared that they are in fact more powerful than they imagine, because that power comes with responsibility. If people recognized their power, they would also need to recognize their responsibility, which is why a lot of the time people will pretend in the presence of a vegan to be less powerful and less in control than they actually are. They will say things like, oh, I couldn't possibly give up this type of food, or I just don't have my life together right now, I can't think about this, I'm behind on work, blah, blah, blah. I just don't have the time. I just don't have the money. You're more powerful than you realize. I do not exaggerate when I say that this decision is a matter of life or death. Not your life or death, but the lives of animals that have never been given a name, that you will never meet. The first time you will ever see them is the time that they arrive on your dinner plate or in the supermarket shelf. Now, the question I like to ask myself is, what would the best version of me do? You know, what would the superhero version of me do? Procrastinating on the exploitation of animals. And I think this is a great mental hack, because I want to be as good as I can possibly be, and I want the shortcut to that. And often we actually know what we need to do, and we're afraid. We're afraid of doing it, or we're reluctant to do it because perhaps we are benefiting in some kind of way from the social inertia, the behavioral inertia that we are steeped in. It's difficult to change tracks, to change your life for the better. It's certainly difficult when there is nothing forcing you into making a decision. No one's going to punish you for putting this off to a later date. See, I can understand where you're at if you're a non-vegan. I can understand where you're at because I was a non-vegan. I was in your situation, and I remember what it feels like. I remember it very well. I remember thinking, that whole vegan discussion is something I can put off to a later date. It's something I can think about in the future. Vegans are probably right, but I got a lot of stuff going on, as usual. I'll think about it later. I just don't want to deal with it right now. But that is not what the best version of you would do. The best version of you would say, I am responsible here for the lives that I am affecting in a negative way. I am responsible here, and it is my responsibility if I am causing some kind of violation, if I am incentivizing some kind of abuse of an innocent animal, I have a responsibility to move that to the top of my to-do list right now and address it and change my behavior if necessary. And then I can go on with my day. And this could be as quick as that. And the reason why it can be that quick is because you're going to make choices about your consumption habits anyway when you're in the supermarket, when you're in the shop, when you're in the restaurant. It's a decision you make passively every day. So changing that doesn't take any time away from what you would normally do. Researching it might, but the actual change, the actual decision itself can be instant. So yeah, higher self. The best version of you is thinking, my duty here is to ensure that the way I'm living my life is not by exploiting the vulnerable, the innocent, the weak, the sick, the unlucky, and the downtrodden. Let's say I'm standing around and I feel something under my feet and I look down and I'm standing on a homeless person's leg. Before I do anything else, I should feel compelled to get off the leg, to stand somewhere else, to just step over to the side, because that is basic consideration. That's what veganism is. It is basic consideration for others. It is not some kind of higher thing, despite me talking about having a higher self. It is not something that you aspire to at the top of some kind of hierarchy. It is in fact right down at the bottom. Basic consideration for others. That is what veganism is. Just as in that example, the priority is to step off of standing on someone. As a priority, we need to recognize when we are trespassing on others' inalienable rights. When we forcibly impregnate a cow so that she will lactate and give milk, and we separate the young so that we can drink the milk instead of the calf, we are trespassing on her rights. When a chicken farmer locks 50,000 chickens in a shed, where a percentage of those chickens will die slowly through tactical neglect, and then we buy the remaining chickens as carcasses, we trespass on the rights of those beings. When a pig farmer picks up a baby piglet and cuts off their teeth and tail, we trespass on that pig's bodily autonomy. To grow into your best self is to face up to the fact that you don't get your animal products from that special farm that you idealize with wishful thinking, where animals are given belly rubs and green pastures and are allowed to die of old age. That is just not the reality. But even if it was, they're still sent to the slaughterhouse. But now that I have reminded you of this moral dilemma that has been sitting at the back of your mind, perhaps for a long time now, a little bug on your brain that you can't shake off. Now that I have brought it to the front of your consciousness, are you going to procrastinate some more and ignore it? Are you going to continue to lie to yourself and say that you're too busy to change, or that there's not enough evidence for what I'm saying, even though the evidence exists all around us at the meat markets, at the fish stalls, in the farms, in the abattoirs, in the footage you can see online? Exploitation is written into the biological laws of mammals. Only pregnant cows lactate. That is written into the DNA of the animal themselves. We have conclusive evidence about this. And you know in your heart that what you're doing needs examining and our habits need to change. I'm not forcing you to stop. Nobody can force you. Nobody can force you. But I am inviting you to stop procrastinating, to stop making excuses for yourself, to do what you already know is right, and to go vegan. And I promise you, it's better on the other side. And your soul will thank you for finally being able to rest. Your conscience will thank you. Thank you for joining me on my roof, and see you in the next one.
You know what I realize? Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to remember nothing. Nothing. You understand?